We're here today to talk about a tax that was imposed this January 1st, and that is the highway use tax. We are asking today that our Democrat colleagues and the governor join us in repealing a tax that's been repealed in 21 other states. What we've seen right now and what you're going to hear from today are people from all walks of life who are going to talk about the impact that this tax has had on their businesses, on their constituent groups, just over the past month. And we would like to have this dialogue and continue it. I think this isn't a bill that we just pass and forget about. We need to really understand the implications that this is having on the state of Connecticut.
Thank you to Representative Candelora. I can't appreciate enough what you're trying to do. I'm a family-run business for almost 35 years, and this bill is going to impact us in multiple ways. The cost alone is a magnitude of anywhere from about $150,000 to $170,000 to my company. That we don't really know how we're gonna afford this, other than passing it on to every consumer that's in this room. Everybody is going to pay for this. Everybody in the state of Connecticut is going to pay. It's, to me, this wasn't thought out hard enough, long enough, with any kind of consensus of how this is going to work, how it's going to be audited. It's not only discombobulated, it's discriminatory because I own tractor trailers. Class 7, 8 trucks on up to 13 are getting taxed. Trucks from class 7 down are not. You're telling me that they don't do as much damage to the roads as everybody in the state saying that tractor trailers do? I just, on top of all the other taxes, our IRP taxes which was supposed to get rid of the last 4 remaining states in the union for our IRP. If you don't know what IRP is, International Registration Plan, that was supposed to cover some of these other costs. Well, only Connecticut now with 4 other states are doing it. And
this tax is supposed to generate $90 million a year, and this money is going to come out of the residents of the state. These fees that they've imposed on this is going to get passed down the line and affect all residents of Connecticut. Everything you own, everything everybody does here was on a truck that came into the state. Your food, your fuel, your medicine, your clothes, your building materials, everything comes in by tractor trailer, and it's going to be passed right down to the consumer.
And it's going to impact, I'm a small business owner, 10 trucks, working on a small profit margin, and this is just going to hurt without being able to pass it on. So we'll do the best to pass it on if we can, but to be competitive, a lot of times you're not going to be able to do that. So it's going to be a burden.
We are seeing family-run businesses employing Connecticut residents up here pleading with you. I think too often in this legislature, the assumption is, oh, don't worry, they're big out-of-state trucking companies, they're big corporations. No, these are men and women who bet everything every day that business is going to be there, that the people they employ are going to have jobs, who will buy houses and raise children in this state. And too often we implement policies that forget the effect on the people who are standing here with us today. And my plea, again, to the governor, to the rest of the legislature, is listen to these voices.
In terms of the Special Transportation Fund, I think that that's a global issue that we need to have. And I think that the fact that Connecticut has mismanaged that fund for decades doesn't make it right to put the burden on these industries to pay this tax. This money will go into the coffers, and we will do the same as usual of heavily subsidizing train and rail in the state of Connecticut to a point that it's unaffordable. And there's no suggestion or plan to get our Special Transportation Fund out of the red. Right now we have projected, I think, through 2025 to have a $600 million surplus. So I would suggest that we take a break on this, take a real hard look at our Special Transportation Fund. Let's look at a transit authority to look at how we are spending before we move forward with this devastating tax.
We are bonding to provide the federal match for so much of that federal infrastructure money. Something this governor said he wasn't prepared to do, yet we are doing that because we are constantly told this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity with these federal dollars. We don't need to reach in the pockets of the men and women here to provide that match. So take a pause, take a break. Let's look at this holistically. If we really wanted to be serious, given the goal of this administration and the state is to totally transition away from fossil fuel vehicles, how are we going to fill the transportation fund going forward? Have a serious conversation. But we don't need this money now, so let's take a pause and have a smart conversation.
And the reality is, 21 states have repealed this. 21 states. We just joined 4. We're now the 5th state to impose this at a time when 21 states repealed it. That alone should get everybody pause.
We've had to hire staff to administer, track, and account for this tax. It's a burden through our personnel management where that individual could be putting time more well spent on making our company more efficient and more profitable. But now we're forced to track it, and it really falls back on the drivers to account for, are they in Massachusetts today? How many miles? Were they back in Connecticut? It's a nightmare, and logistically, to account for all this and to put that burden upon small businesses in the state of Connecticut is really shameful. And we should come up with a much better plan if we're going to do something moving forward.
Is this a daily reporting that you're trying?
We have to track it daily so we can report it monthly. I believe, and it's time consuming.
Impact. What is the benefit that the state is really deriving versus the harm that it's causing? And I think when this tax was imposed, there really wasn't an understanding of that harm. It was done during the COVID sessions when we were really blocked out from the outside world. And so we think that we need to have a conversation now, sooner than later. Nobody envisioned the supply chain disruptions and costs that were incurred as a result of COVID. And this has just compounded the problem. I would prefer to have a conversation about the spending first before the revenue. The Special Transportation Fund, oddly, has always led the conversation with revenue. And when you're looking at Shoreline East, where the state is subsidizing every ticket $106 of state tax dollars that a passenger is receiving from the state to ride Shoreline East, we have to have a broader conversation of, is our public transportation system and spending working? And to suggest that we could just keep raising taxes and putting it on the backs of businesses and residents in the state of Connecticut for transportation systems that aren't even being utilized. One example, we bonded millions of dollars for parking garages in Hartford. If we truly are serious about public transportation, why are we building parking garages in our urban centers? And I'm not critical of that. We need parking in Hartford. And that suggests that people are just accustomed to driving vehicles in our state. And yet we're putting all this money into public transportation that's not being used.
Yeah, so, just to hire an individual is costing me $85,000 a year to put a staff member on. That's just the administration part. The tax alone is going to be upwards of anywhere to $80,000 to $90,000, upwards to $100,000 as our season gets busier, as every mile we put on in the state. So, you talk about the gas tax there was a rebate on the gas tax. We never saw that on diesel. Matter of fact, we were paying double and triple amounts for diesel. We were paying $5 and $5.50 a gallon. We're at the pump for diesel today, it's still $4.69, $4.50. If you get it in bulk, I'm still at the high threes. So, on top of, we were paying on an average of $18,000 to $22,000 a week for fuel. We're now at $40,000 a week for fuel. And you want to put this on top of it? What's going to happen in the state of Connecticut? You're going to lose businesses. You're going to get a family-run business, second generation. My kids are coming into the business that are going to say, why am I doing this? Why do I want to stay here? Sell the business, close the business. I'll put 70 people on unemployment. Is that the right thing for state of Connecticut? I don't think so. I want to keep growing my business. I don't know how I'm going to grow it when I have a tax like this.